Hi, I'm Erica, and today I will be your tour guide in exploring different ways to level up your teaching game. To give a brief background about myself, I am a licensed psychologist and I've been teaching for 3 years. Not as long as most of you, I will admit. However, what I lack in experience, I make up for with extra effort and style. It is my hope that you will learn something new today and that you will be encouraged to try out some of the things we will talk about in your own classes. Our mission today involves 3 parts. First, I will show you my secret sauce, or how I use themes to connect with and engage students in asynchronous Canvas modules. Then, I'll tell you the story of how I use Gather.town to teach psychological statistics in an online class. Last, I'll give you a preview of how I apply gamification in another class. While these topics are primarily for online modalities, you can still incorporate them into your face-to-face classes through your LMS modules, lecture slides, and in-person activities. Part 1. Theme it. Let's go back to the year 2022. Students have been attending almost 2 years of fully online classes by then, since the COVID-19 pandemic began and confined everyone to their homes, spending their days in front of screens, laptops, and cell phones. Zoom fatigue was setting in, discussion board overload, awkward breakout rooms where no one wants to be the first to initiate, and all this on top of feelings of anxiety, grief, and isolation brought on by the pandemic. For the teachers here, your experience may not have been too different. Monologuing to black and gray screens because students are off-cam, occasionally hearing disembodied voices, being unsure of what's happening when the class is dead silent. Did you get disconnected? Or is it just that nobody in the class is willing to be the first to recite? These experiences may have been especially prevalent in subjects that students perceive as difficult, such as psychological statistics. Let's take a look at where students were coming from. Shown here are initial comments from my psych stat students before the start of the semester. I really am scared of this class or anything with numbers in it, especially statistics, because they are intimidating and I do not have any knowledge of it, even the most basic of basics. Very bad at math. I was definitely apprehensive. Statistics is hard enough as it is, but add psychology and it becomes a whole different subject. Many of my students question why they have to learn math when their course is psychology. Their pre-existing math anxiety becomes a barrier to engagement and consequently to learning. I paint this picture to raise a point. First impressions seem to be very important. For example, in today's talk, I made sure that the first few seconds of animation and music would be aesthetically pleasing and hopefully pique your interest in what I have to say. In the same way, I've found that setting the tone at the beginning of the semester lets students know what to expect from you and from the class. One of the first things students notice in clicking on my Canvas course or even checking out the syllabus and the first introduction page is that particular attention was given to the design and layout, from the color palette to the different fonts, headings, indentations, and graphics. This is intentional. I believe that content that looks nice and is logically organized will naturally invite student engagement and consequently, student learning. This facilitates multimodal learning, reduces cognitive load in making sense of the modules, and facilitates the encoding and retrieval processes. The design language that I use is also unique per subject. For psychological statistics, I use the overarching theme of traveling by train because, admittedly, statistics can sometimes feel like a stressful and confusing visit to a foreign land with its own language and unfamiliar traditions. Some of you may have already been triggered by seeing the formula for Pearson's correlation coefficient and the normal curve. Raise your hand if you're feeling a sense of rising foreboding within you. That is exactly what I was aiming to address. You see, instead of feeling lost and stranded in a foreign land, our journey together could be framed as an exciting adventure with new lands to explore, familiar characters, and friends to support each other with. The class is not just a class, it's a tour with curated excursions and activities facilitated not by a stuffy professor, but a tour guide. That's me. Now, I'm far from being an expert in statistics, but I am someone who has been this way before, having studied it in both college and grad school. So, just like a local tour guide, I have some useful tips and tricks that can help travelers navigate this strange and foreign land called psychological statistics. This pixel avatar is meant to be me, popping up now and again to give helpful hints and encouragement to the student as they go through the modules. The travel and train theme was continued throughout the usual module components. Instead of a class syllabus, we had an itinerary showing how long we were staying at each topic or destination. And students were not just students, they were travelers going on a railroad adventure, traversing different lands and themed stops, referencing popular media and real-world destinations to illustrate the theory and practical use of statistics. Module overviews were labeled as travel checklists, giving students an introduction to the destination, the theme, and the statistical topics to be covered. Practice quizzes were called checkpoints and played out more like a casual personality test you'd see in a magazine where one aimed to get the highest prize. For example, in the probability module where students go to Las Vegas, their score on the quiz determines which tourist destination they're going to. If they get below 4, then it's just a photo opportunity at the fabulous Las Vegas sign. Score a little more, and they get to watch the Fountain Light Show at the Bellagio. The grand prize requires a score of 8 and above, and persistent students will be able to ride the high roller, feast on hors d'oeuvres, and sip on wine while taking in the view of Las Vegas and the Strip. If at first they don't succeed, then they can always go back to the modules and review the concept that they got wrong. These quizzes are unlimited tries, which fosters an attitude of mastery and grit instead of perfection at the first try. Perseverance is crucial when learning a complex subject such as statistics, which sometimes requires several tries to fully grasp the concepts. Once they do, however, they're rewarded for it. Let's now try a question from one of the checkpoints. When you toss a die, what is the probability that you'll get a face with less than 5 spots? The correct answer is 4 out of 6, or 0.66 or 66%. Did you get it right? How about this question featuring legendary professional boxer turned Las Vegas entertainer Mike Tyson? In a carton of 10 eggs, 3 were broken. Mike Tyson took 2 unbroken eggs and made omelets. A little later, he took another egg out of the carton. What is the probability that this egg was not broken? Go on. I'll give you some time to think about it and maybe even write out the problem. Remember, this is just a practice quiz, and you can keep trying even if you get it wrong the first time. If you answered 5 out of 8, you are correct. Good job. We can all ride the high roller now. Moving on to exams, these are usually major sources of anxiety for students. Since this was for an online class, exams were essay type and were reframed as writing a postcard to share with their loved ones back home what they've learned from their travels. This gave students an opportunity to try to explain technical topics in layman's terms, further deepening their understanding of them. At this point, you may have some initial thoughts such as, this sounds like a lot of effort. Is it even worth doing? And why is this person so extra? Well, to answer the last question, I thought I had to. You see, in my lecture orientation email, our subject coordinator, Dr. Jopay Nolasco, wrote the phrase, fun statistics course. I had thought, capital F-U-N? Wow, these professors must be really serious in making the subject fun for students. I should be doing the same. Of course, later on, I realized fun stood for fundamental statistics. Joking aside, here is what one student had to say about their first impressions of the themed modules. I am very excited for this class. After seeing the Canvas page and everything, I feel as if I am in good hands, and I feel like I will be looking forward to classes every Monday. So I thank you for making me feel less worried and more excited for this subject. I will now be showing you specific examples and screenshots from my Canvas course. Here's an overview of the topics covered in my PsychStat class and the corresponding destination or theme per module. These themes and destinations were reflected in examples, analogies, and graphics in the module pages. I also wrote narrative plots that students could insert themselves into and, through statistics, solve the problem and save the day. Arriving at neighborhood 12358W, we have the good place for descriptive statistics. Eleanor and Tahani, two characters from the TV show, get into an argument about the quality of people who frequently hang out at Starbucks. Eleanor believes them to be basic, while Tahani disagrees. Both of them believe themselves to be right, but they can't both be right. This highlights the importance of testing common sense beliefs or hypotheses. In another part of the module, to introduce the topic of the nominal level of measurement, you are introduced to the character of Janet, an attractive and all-knowing artificial being who, contrary to the other female characters, Eleanor and Tahani, is categorically not a girl. The checkpoints, or practice quizzes, also contain more references to the show. The newly arrived humans in the neighborhood are middle adults. Help Michael find the mode for their age. After completing the checkpoint, you can see which The Good Place character are you, and which frozen yogurt flavor will you get, based on your score on the practice quiz. If you're still aiming for the top prize, then you can go back, review the concepts, and take the quiz again. Some of the hints may not be from The Good Place though. For example, how can students easily remember what the measure of central tendency mode means? They can think of Edna Mode, the eccentric fashion designer from the animated film Incredibles. As a fashion designer, she has to look out for what kind of fashion is trending, popular, or most frequently occurring, which is the definition of mode. What about for median? Many students play MOBA games such as League of Legends, Mobile Legends, or Dota. In these battle arenas, the middle lane, or the median, the middle, bisects the map into two symmetrical halves. In the same way, the number of cases to the left and right of the median are equal. Or, how about this for another tour guide tip? How do you remember what a positive and negative skew look like? My clue is to imagine a spiky dragon tail and to follow it. The tail is kind of scary and mean looking with all of its sharp spikes, so the mean will always be near the tail. You then follow the tail and see where it goes, to the negative side or to the positive side. After going through the first module, here's feedback from one of my students. This module was super fun to go through, and the added emojis and graphics helped make the module pages look like pages from a grade school math textbook, which is super great, given that it lessens my feelings of apprehension in studying this subject. So far, so good. Let's now get lucky in our next destination. Welcome to fabulous Las Vegas, where we will learn all about probability, the foundation of inferential statistics. Right away, you are invited to enter a casino and gamble. For educational purposes, of course, and in a perfectly safe environment. You are given 25 pounds of virtual money to bet on a biased coin with a 60% chance of landing heads up. Which side would you bet on? This is a Canvas discussion board, so students share their results after betting for 5 minutes and discuss what their strategy was. This uncovered misconceptions about probability that students may have had, such as the gambler's fallacy. The plot thickens. One of your classmates who lost her entire pot in the casino is trying to make back her money. She's taking bets to see if you're able to draw a jack from a full deck of cards. Would you play? Computing for the probability, you find that there is only a 1 out of 13 or 7.69% chance of drawing a jack, so you respectfully pass. In this module, you also go on a blind date with normal distribution and get to know its curves. You learn how to calculate the percentage of Vegas showgirls who are within a certain height range and discover that you are probably below the first percentile in terms of height. You've reached the checkpoint. How well were you able to get to know normal distribution during your blind date? Did you pay enough attention? Or is a second or third date warranted to get to know each other better? In another checkpoint, your score will determine the Vegas show you'll be watching on your last night in Vegas. These are all real shows, by the way. At the end of each module, there's some breathing room in the Hard Rock Cafe. It's a discussion board that invites students to share tips, ask questions, or add a song to the collaborative Spotify travel playlist so that the whole class can jam to the same songs. Welcome, welcome to the 74th Hunger Games. Our third stop brings us to Panem to learn about sampling strategies and t-tests. We start with District 12, just in time for the reaping. Effie Trinket consults with us to choose a sampling strategy for the Hunger Games tributes. And this is where students learn about the pros and cons of random and non-random sampling. Walking around District 12, we also stumble across Primrose Everdeen, Katniss's sister, who is looking for her hideous cat, Buttercup. Widening the search area is the analogy used for using a larger confidence interval, as we are more confident of finding Buttercup if we comb the whole seam, rather than just looking for her inside their house. In the same way, we can also be more confident in including the population mean if we use a larger range of values. There's Buttercup. We also visit Rue in District 11, who is part of the quality control team and needs to determine the average weight of 100 apples in a barrel. Students can practice calculating confidence intervals in this checkpoint. Here's another one. Which Panem meal are you eating? Will you be able to score high enough to enjoy this decadent dessert tray imported straight from the capital kitchens? Or will you be left with Pita's burnt bread, Pita not included? Meanwhile, plans for a rebellion against the capital are brewing in District 13, and we are tasked to survey the people of Panem to determine their readiness for revolution using the RR scale. To accomplish this, students learn about sampling error. They gather samples and find the mean of sample means. Here, we get a value of 100.4 readiness, which on the made-up RR scale means that the people of Panem are ready. It's time to start a revolution. In the capital, students learn how to conduct t-tests when game makers want to know if there is a significant difference between male tribute scores versus that of female tributes. And finally, after that long module, students take a moment to rest. This also coincided with the academic break, so you can see students' posts on the breathing room discussion board were reminders to be kind to yourself. Let's take a break too by hearing another feedback from a student. The use of creative imagination and role-playing helped me integrate my learnings in my everyday pop culture comfort zone. Our fourth stop takes us to Diagon Alley to shop for magical supplies we will need for this part of our journey. That's right, the theme for the module on ANOVA is Harry Potter. We board Hogwarts Express, and after settling in, we encounter another checkpoint. Which wizarding suite will you get? Will you settle for Bertie Bott's every flavor bean, or try to get the chocolate frogs made with 70% cocoa and comes with a rare collectible card of famous witches and wizards? Upon arriving at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, we witness the sorting ceremony, where students take turns wearing the sorting hat and being assigned to their Hogwarts house. Better be Gryffindor! Or are you clever like Ravenclaw? Kind like Hufflepuff? Or cunning as Slytherins? But apparently, there are rumors and rumblings among the magical community that this 1,000-year-old sorting hat is losing its good judgment. Using raw data from an actual study of Jacob et al., students will conduct an analysis of variance to test the hypotheses that real-life people who were sorted into Hufflepuff by the official Pottermore test would score highest in agreeableness, conscientiousness, and emotional stability, while those who were sorted into Gryffindors were expected to score the highest on extroversion, and so on. The participants in the study answered the IPIP 50 and the short dark triad scale, and this is where their trait scores come from. From here, students learn to conduct ANOVA. It involves a lot of manual calculations, but characters from the movies encourage them to go on. For example, heavy math ahead, but channel your inner Gryffindor exemplified by Ron Weasley. Even though he is afraid of many things such as spiders, he knows what needs to be done and bravely pushes forward in spite of the fear. See, even Snape approves. And Voldemort goes, yes! Professor McGonagall can't help but be proud of you for pushing through. After manual calculations, I also provide a step-by-step video tutorial within the modules so that students can try the same problem using SPSS. And if you're curious about the accuracy of the sorting hat, or realistically speaking, the official Pottermore test, here are the results. Not bad, sorting hat. Notably, those who were sorted in Slytherin scored highest in the dark triad traits, Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy compared to all the other houses. Here are questions from the second checkpoint in the module, comparing the amount of foam in the butterbeer served in different locations, and determining which fertilizer is most effective at speeding up the growth of mandrakes. Is it dragon dung, sloth brain, rat spleen, or flying seahorses? For your efforts, you will be able to determine what form your Patronus charm takes and what it says about you. Can you get the rare dapple gray mare Patronus? I hope you had a magical time in this destination because our final stop will be...
Do you wanna build a snowman?
in Arundel. In this short module, students learn how to conduct correlation and regression analysis. Disney characters come to life as we analyze whether anxiety increases with age, just like with Elsa, where it's a positive correlation. Then, Marvel superheroes join us to give tips about regression. Here are the checkpoints. Which souvenir will you get from Wandering Oaken's trading post? Some old carrots, bottled lutefisk, homemade sun balm, or relaxing in Oaken's sauna. The final checkpoint allows you to collect all 6 Infinity Stones. Getting a score of 2 and below grants you the Reality Stone, so you can face the reality that you need to study statistics more. If you bring your score up to a 3, you are granted the Space and Time Stones, so you can set aside the time to sit down and study. Get a 6, and you will also have the Mind and Power Stones, so that you can use your mind to understand the concepts better and power through the modules. 8 and above grants you the Soul Stone, as you must be prepared to sacrifice for your goals. And finally, a score of 10 gives you all 6 Infinity Stones and the Infinity Gauntlet to wield the power of statistics. Use it wisely. We've just finished all 5 themed destinations. Let's take a breather and see what students have said about the course. I love the idea how our prof integrated role-playing themes every module, such as Harry Potter, the MCU, Hunger Games, and the like, since it helped us relate more to the topics better by emphasizing fandom universes into learnings. I like the delivery method of this course in the way the students are actively kept engaged throughout the modules with analogies, explanations, learning checks, running themes that make the lessons enjoyable. I hope it was the same for you as I showed my asynchronous modules, because in a few moments we will be starting the second part of my talk, which is walking you through my students' experiences of Gather.town, where we held synchronous sessions. Let's rewind back to the start of the semester when students were still being oriented in the introduction module. At the end of Module 0, students were provided a link to Gather.town, a metaverse where users can customize their own avatar and enter a pre-designed 2D map where they can freely move around, interact with objects, and other avatars. One of the biggest differences of Gather from Zoom is that Gather is a proximity-based video conferencing platform, which means that it more resembles real-life conditions. You'll be able to see your classmates and teacher approaching, upon which their video and sound feeds appear. You can talk with them as you would in Zoom, share screen, and chat, but once they walk away, their video and sound will disappear. There's less Zoom fatigue in Gather because you aren't on all the time. In addition, you feel like you're in the same space as the rest of your class instead of being disembodied black screens. What can your avatar do? You can express yourself using emojis, throw confetti, and dance like there's no tomorrow, which my students made plenty use of. Now, in keeping with the theme, when students enter the Gather link and finish creating their avatar, they arrive at the train station. Using tile sets, pre-existing templates, and objects in Gather, I customized this experience so that students would be encouraged to explore the map. To move around, you can use your arrow keys or your WASD keys. Along the way, you can interact with objects by pressing the X key, and you'll discover materials needed for the semester, such as links to the textbook, reference articles, and even other fun activities. There's even a cafe. To get your train ticket, you have to answer this survey, which seeks to gather information about this particular set of incoming travelers, from your quirks to your baggage, such as math anxiety, to customize the course and craft a bespoke tour. Here you can share your basic information, what your accessibility situation looks like, and what kind of special amenities you might need during our trip. Completing the entrance ticket survey form will give you your ticket and a food and drink voucher, which you can use in Bernoulli's Bar. It's an embedded Padlet inviting students to talk and share about themselves, like people would naturally do if they were face-to-face on the first day of class. What's your go-to drink? Describe your dream destination. What are you into right now? What about psychology interests you? This is a bird's eye view of the train station. If we cross the platform, we will be able to board the train. I spy with my little eye me in the picture. Were you able to find me? I'm the one photoshopped behind the bar counter. So this luxurious vintage but classic vibe was what I wanted to convey in the space. And while Gather is highly customizable, they didn't have a template specifically for a train station, much less the inside of a train. So to enact my vision the best I could, I learned to use tile sets and tiled and made my own train to put on top of an existing beach template on Gather. This is the bird's eye view of the train with its many compartments. Below is the beach, and above the atrium is the path to the plaza, which serves as the classroom where sync sessions were held. When students boarded the train, they reserved a compartment for their group, designed based on the colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, teal, and violet. One group even told me that they had a sleepover in their compartment. These mini rooms served as a private meeting place and home base for their group research projects. In this screenshot, they are working on a research activity. It's important to note that these are private spaces, so only people inside their compartment can hear each other. For me to check on each group, I only have to walk my avatar across the train aisle to each compartment, and I would be able to see, hear, and interact with my students. Aside from the group compartments, there were also ones that serve unique functions. I designed my own private office at the front of the train where I could hold consultations. This is me talking with my beetle, Ro, while the next group of students waited for their turn outside, while naturally dancing. There was also a game room, and these are all functional. One just has to press X to interact with these online games such as Codenames, Fishbowl, and Draw Battle. Here's the dining compartment and the atrium where they can sit and listen to Debussy from the harp. Pressing X near the calendar brings up the travel itinerary. Let's now go north of the atrium to check out the plaza where we spent most of our time during sync sessions. The plaza was regularly redecorated in accordance with changing module themes to illustrate arriving at a different destination. We have Love in Las Vegas with the heart balloons and an interactive bouquet with romantic stat puns such as "I can see a best fitting line between you and me." While we were in Hogwarts for ANOVA, I and some students donned a witch hat. And during the final research presentations on the big stage, there were groups who coordinated their avatar uniforms, which is something that students do in face to face classes. But my students found a way to do the same in Gather. Here they are, wearing their smart green berets and pretty pink ribbons. At the top part of the plaza are practice pods, now frozen themed, and which served as private spaces for group problem solving activities using a shared whiteboard. They even found time to draw. Again, only people within the mat can hear each other, and I can drop in at any time to check on their progress and see if they need more support. Additionally, the students themselves can easily step out of the group or move between groups to ask questions or help their classmates. Here, my students are going back to their tables and seats after a class activity. And here's a clip showing how we have a learning check during the session called Let's Play. Students can use different colored emojis to show which answer they think is correct. In the end, I always add a travel trivia question which is related to the current theme.
All right. What about the others? Still alive? Still breathing? Kaya pa naman? Thank you. All right. Sige, let's do a let's play. Great to hear that, Pat. All right. I think I just have 5 questions here. Denotes the slope or the regression coefficient for x. What is referring to the slope or regression coefficient? All right. It's blue, letter B. Very good. And for our travel trivia question, about which city do Hawkeye and Black Widow often reminisce? New York, Sokovia, Westview, Budapest. I see blues and yellows, yellows, blues. All right. So the correct answer is Budapest. It is the capital of Hungary. And dahil mag-lunch time na, that's probably what we're feeling now. For New York, Stark Tower is there, yung headquarters ni Tony Stark. In real life, it's the MetLife building located at 200 Park Avenue. It's adjacent to the Grand Central Terminal.
As you've seen, the students themselves adopted a playful attitude in their interactions and joined in on the role playing. In one of our earlier sessions, I got disconnected, and when I eventually reconnected and spawned, I was surprised to see my students out of their seats and instead clumped up around me, as you can see in the image. I asked them, "What's going on? Why are you all here?" And their response was that they were forming a summoning circle and conducting a ritual to bring me back by dancing around the podium. And apparently it worked because I was able to come back. Here is a 2-minute clip that will also show Gather in action.
Our activity for today is basically the SPSS thing. This is what it looks like. Later, when we go down to the beach, diba, when you go down to the train, there's like a doorway that goes to the beach. It's now been unlocked. We will go there later, sabay-sabay. So, I'm gonna explain lang muna what we're gonna do. Each meron parang chalkboard. And all the chalkboards on the beach all linked to the same Padlet. And this is what the Padlet looks like, okay? So, there are like 10 challenges. Parang there's a submission that you need to post here for each challenge. Everything you need is actually provided already in like the beach basket. And andyan yung link for the data set, the Notion, which I have updated, yung SPSS Genie, I've updated that. And I will also link it in the chat right now. So I said in the what do you call this announcement, na if you have like another device, like your phone or a tablet, that would be really good para you have the Notion page opened. I included also the bit.ly link there para it's easy for you to open it on your other device. Yeah, you have it opened there right with you. Tapos your laptop has SPSS para you can easily refer to what steps you need to take on the Notion page. Okay. Yeah, so there are 4 baskets in the Padlet, and that means there are 4 data sets that we're gonna work with, and it's like a step-by-step thing. I will show you what the Notion page looks like. Ayan, so it has like the header, and then the instructions, and then what you're supposed to click. So it's there. Everything is there. And if today may be the first time that you'll be using SPSS, so if you feel like you're maybe a little bit drowning, signal for me to come and help you. I will be your lifeguard for the day. Okay, so I'll just be there in the middle of the beach, and if you need help, I will. You can come to me, or I can come to you. Or you can also private message me, and I will come to you. Okay. So, do you have any questions about how we're gonna do today's sync session? Questions? Are you guys good? If you are good, can you give me your best beach emoji? And I have a coconut which I have been
All right. So he spent a day at the beach called Summer Splash, Sand, and SPSS to celebrate their first time learning how to use SPSS. And the metaphor translated from a tour guide, I became a lifeguard who would rescue travelers when they needed help in using the program. Our final sync session, we disembarked from the train and returned to the train station to conclude our journey. To the upper right, you can see the area where the students took to the stage and presented their research projects. Emotional support puppies were available, which follows avatars around if you pet them. Here's one of my students bringing her puppy on the stage while presenting. To the left, there's also a go-kart rental, so your avatar can zoom fast, as well as a celebration picnic island where one group asked to take a photo with me after their presentations. You can see them wearing their purple graduation caps. After all that, let's see what students have to say about the platform. I hope that you can continue the use of Gather.town if ever online classes were still implemented next school year, since it really helped me in feeling welcome in this class despite my apprehensions in statistics. I never knew that learning can be this more immersive, apart from Zoom icebreakers, breakout rooms, and Zoom reaction emojis. I feel that this is a whole new level of conducting synchronous sessions in the future, and our prof raised that bar for our succeeding profs in my future classes. After that glowing review, we have to balance it with the honest cons. First, if you choose to use Gather, there is a slight learning curve. The user interface will be similar to Zoom, but not exactly. I've found, however, that students, being digital natives, are able to pick it up really quickly as it is designed to be like a game and is already intuitive for them. Second, the pop culture references I use in my theme modules may eventually become obscure and will need to be updated. Fortunately for us, media companies these days are milking existing IPs and franchises, and they keep making reboots, prequels, sequels, and live action remakes to exploit people's nostalgia, keeping these characters in the cultural zeitgeist a little bit longer and making them relatable even to the younger generations. The last major con is the premium pricing. When I tried using Gather in 2022, the free plan was available for up to 30 users, which fit my class size nicely. And so I was able to use the platform the entire semester for free. However, starting this year, the free plan is now limited to up to 10 users only, which could still work for very small graduate classes or online consultations. If you are really interested in subscribing, here's a calculation. The cost per user per month is $7, so a class of 30 would incur a steep price of $210. I asked their sales team if there was regional pricing, especially for developing countries such as ours, but they just gave me discount codes for educational use, bringing down the costs, if you can call it that, to 8,160 pesos a month. Meanwhile, a personal Zoom license costs around 465 pesos a month. I will point out, however, that there is a lot more you can do with Gather compared to Zoom, as you've seen in my presentation. So, comparing their prices may not be fair. Zoom, true to its name, is a quick and easy way to hop on a call with someone or host a webinar for hundreds of people. But if interacting, socializing, and gathering in small to medium sized groups are more in line with your goals, just as we do when we teach, then Gather is still a great option. Think of Gather as more like renting out a space, or in this case, a classroom, just online. We pay rent for the spaces we use, such as apartments, clinics, and offices. So, why not an online space wherein we can come together and call it ours? We can build up and decorate the space together, move around, and interact with each other in real time. In addition, the space is always available, so no one needs to be hosting the meeting, unlike in Zoom. This is why Gather is also being used as a virtual office for remote teams, conferences, and even online friend gatherings and family celebrations. One possible cost-saving measure is to use the space in turns. Each space can have multiple rooms, so building an online campus with multiple classrooms that will be used on different days and at different time slots will allow us to keep the number of concurrent users and consequently the costs to that of under 30. Here is a possible layout of 4 separate classrooms which users can enter by going around the campus garden. Gather also offers several pre-made templates from the educational to the seasonal and experiential. You can work with a blank space or just customize an existing one. To quote Walt Disney, if you can dream it, you can build it. Customizing your space is quite easy. Just pull up the object picker, choose the decoration or interactive object that you want, and click on the space where you want to place it. There are many different types and styles of objects, and more are also being regularly added. For more advanced users, if you want to customize the pathways in your space, this is what the map maker looks like. Again, you don't need to change anything if you don't want to. The pre-made templates are already great by themselves. The space that I'm showing you now is actually the first one that I made to use in a class. When I was still teaching Understanding the Self, the theme I went with was a classic 8-bit role-playing game where students could choose to be a warrior, a healer, a mage, or a rogue. Thus, I chose this tavern template on Gather, decorated it, having way too much fun in the process. I held our final synchronous session of my Understanding the Self class in this very tavern on Gather, just as a proof of concept. So, in the last part of my talk, I will give you a quick preview of how I use gamification and Gather in another class. Here is my animated Canvas course card featuring the 4 classes students could become: warrior, mage, healer, and rogue. In the middle is a shining gold coin, which was the foundation of the game loop in the class. Basically, by completing course activities, doing well in the quizzes, and volunteering in class, students were able to earn gold, which I kept track of. At the end of the module, the conversion counter opens and they're able to exchange the gold to gems at a 5-to-1 exchange rate. What can they do with their gems? Well, let me first tell you about the self-care component of the course. Habitica is a free habit building and productivity app or website that treats your real life like a game. By setting healthy habits and completing your to-do list, your character earns experience and gold, allowing you to level up and buy weapons, armor, and quest scrolls. Gems are a special type of currency that can be used to purchase special pet eggs, hatching potions, or even rare seasonal outfits. Student groups create their own Habitica party and go on quests together. as they go through the course, reading the readings, contributing to the discussion boards, and doing the self-care challenges, they progress both in-game and in real life. Here's Marian's glow up from a level 7 adventurer with a pet skeleton flying pig to a level 23 rogue where her pet has grown into a mount. Sab, on the other hand, is focused on styling her character pink and accumulating lots of gold to buy more equipment, becoming a fully decked out level 20 warrior by the end of the semester. During sync sessions, I also use Mentimeter as learning checks, with the top 3 scorers getting bonus gold. They can also collect special badges in Canvas for each module they finish, and even a secret badge for volunteering to be the beetle or sharing a tip in class. For their final project, students had to make a video presentation answering big questions about themselves. Here we are in the Habitica Tavern on Gather, watching their videos and celebrating the last day of the course by throwing confetti. And of course, taking a class picture. That concludes my talk for today. But I won't be leaving you empty-handed. I've compiled a Notion page of resources and links featured in my talk, including the Gather discount codes, links to the Gather spaces I've made, and even our Spotify travel playlist. You can access them through this link or QR code. Thank you so much for listening. I wish you all the best in using themed modules, Gather.town, and gamification in your own classes. Goodbye!